Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you. Thank you for joining us as we celebrate the 40th anniversary of the Knight Bagehot Fellowships. My name is Terry Thompson, and I am director of the Knight Bagehot program, and it is my pleasure to welcome you this evening. We have a long program ahead, and it's going to be really exciting if we could ever get started. Over the past 4 decades, Columbia Journalism School, in partnership with Columbia Business School, has educated 362 mid-career journalists. These 362 journalists came to Columbia Thank you. These 362 journalists came to Columbia in a rigorous program of study in economics, business, and finance. The dean of the MBA program at Columbia Business School likes to call our fellows anthropologists. They're citizens of the journalism school and sojourners at the business school, where they study the tools, they learn the tools and study the culture and society of business and come out of the experience as better business reporters, writers, and editors. We call ourselves Bagehots, and I'm happy to tell you that tonight there are 86 Bagehots in this room, as far away. They come from as far away as Seattle and London. They represent every decade, and we even have members from the very first class of 1976 here with us tonight. Could we raise the house lights? Because I would actually like you to meet the Bagehots. They're the ones wearing the name tags. Can we raise the house lights? See? Bagehots, will you please rise so that we can acknowledge you? And okay, all right, sit down. And while the lights are still up, I'd also like to recognize the founders, the co-founders of the Bagehot program, Steve Shepard and Soma Golden Bear. We call them our mom and pop because without them, quite literally, we wouldn't even be here. So Soma and Steve, could you please rise so we can thank you for the vision that brings us together 40 years later. I'd also like you to meet the Knight Bagehot Board of Advisors. They're listed on the back of your dinner program. They're chaired by the phenomenal Jillian Tett, and these folks help me. They're instrumental in everything from curriculum and alumni development to fundraising. Board, would you please stand too so we can recognize you? Board, up. And last but certainly not least, I'd like to thank my assistant, Gary Hill, and our events managers, Maria Deschênes and Paul Reitz of Projects Plus, who have produced tonight's dinner. So my thanks to all of you. Proverbs 29:18 says, "Where there is no vision, people perish." So you can read about Steve Shepard's vision in an excerpt from his recent book that we've published or republished in the program, How the Bagehot Program Was Won. And one of the things you'll read about in this brief history is a list of the original funders, the original 8 funders of the Bagehot Program. And I am so happy to say that tonight we have 5 of those original supporters. And they are, do you want to know who the 5 supporters are, right? Shh, let me tell you who the 5 original supporters are, because they're here tonight. AT&T, Citi, IBM, Alcoa, and Prudential. What a testimony to Steve's vision that you're all still supporting our program these many years later. And while this initial funding got the program started, what has transformed it into a permanent fixture at Columbia University is the endowment established by the John S. and James L. Knight Foundation in 1987, and I'm very pleased to say that folks from Knight Foundation are here tonight as well. So, of course, what sustains us year after year is the annual giving of alumni, friends, and other corporate sponsors. And tonight we are incredibly blessed by your generosity. Here, I would like to acknowledge our dinner co-chairs, Raj Cohen of Sullivan & Cromwell, Alberto Ibarguen of Knight Foundation, Brian Moynihan of Bank of America, Doug Peterson of McGraw-Hill, and Tom Speechley of the Abraj Group. With their help and your generosity, we exceeded our fundraising goal tonight. Tonight we raised $602,000, which will be enough to support 10 tuitions for Knight Bagehot Fellows. I want to give special thanks to AT&T and Bank of America, who are hosting our receptions both before and after dinner. Because they've underwritten the cost of your cocktails and desserts, more of your contributions are going directly to scholarships. So thank you all for your generosity. Shh. I know you don't want to be this rude to all of our speakers tonight, do you? A highlight of the Knight Bagehot program are the weekly dinners the fellows have at Columbia Faculty House. And some of you in this room may have actually been a guest at one of our dinners. But there's one person, one guest, who has attended dinner every year of the 22 years. You know what, you can put the house lights down again. This isn't helping at all. House lights down. Thank you. The one guest who has attended every dinner, or has attended dinner every year in the 22 years that I've been running the Bagehot program, has honored us by co-chairing tonight's dinner, and that is H. Rajan Cohen, the senior chairman of Sullivan & Cromwell. Anyone who has either written or read a story about the banking industry will know and recognize the name of Raj Cohen, and Raj has agreed to make a few remarks. So on behalf of Raj, please welcome Raj Cohen to the stage.
I am truly honored tonight to add my welcome to Terry's. As most of you know, Terry is the heart and soul of a program that has for decades produced some of the finest business journalists in the world. Under Terry's tutelage, the Knight Bagehot program combines the Bagehots' already proven journalistic skills with an enhanced ability to satisfy their unceasing intellectual curiosity. And as Terry mentioned, I have had the privilege of spending an evening annually with the Bagehots for the 22 years, and it is one night to which I always look forward. Our discussion is always thought-provoking, and I think back just a few weeks ago where several questions were asked and observations were made that led me to refine a key tenet of a paper I had been working on for over a year. So once again, thank you all so very much for joining us tonight and supporting a program that sheds so much needed enlightenment in a world where it is truly needed. Thanks again.
Thank you, Raj, for those kind words. Another of our featured dinner guests who has met with or taught Bagehots for most of the past 15 years is being honored tonight. And that, of course, is Columbia University professor Joseph Stiglitz. Renowned economist, prolific author, and Nobel laureate, Joe Stiglitz really needs no introduction from me. So let me step aside and allow some of Joe's friends to tell you all about Joe.
Joe has an insatiable curiosity and a willingness to engage.
Joe is one of these people who speaks truth to power, and he has always done that.
He has changed the nature of economics in a way that I think he is the only economist of his generation who's done that.
Two things drive Joe. One is economic excellence in the work he does, and the second is a deep sense of compassion.
Joe grew up on the wrong side of the tracks. It was a pretty humble house that we visit sometimes. He saw the fact that the steel mill, Gary was a steel town, was cyclical, that there were kids at school who sometimes through the year just didn't have any money. So he picked up on all of that, and I think that informed a lot of his thinking later about economics.
Joe is quite special in many ways. One of them is that he is capable of underscoring and describing the human dimension of economics.
The most important advice that Joe gave me was that every room you're in the White House has an awful lot of political advisors in it and not an awful lot of economists. So it's really important to be in those rooms and to be giving economic advice and standing up for economics.
He has, like many Nobel Prize winners, used the prize to good effect to try to bring more attention to the issues that he cares about. But he's still the same old Joe.
Many who share kind of that degree of renown, in a sense, often develop a kind of entitled aspect. Joe never did. And Joe brings as much curiosity to a new question today as he did when he was a newly minted PhD.
The library will be closing?
Oh, I hadn't realized it was so late. Excuse me, I'll close in right away.
It's extremely unusual for a book by the Nobel Prize winning economist to hit bestseller lists the way that Joe's books do. And the neat thing to watch also as the books began to come out was to watch Joe really become an incredibly successful public intellectual.
My guest tonight is a two-time Nobel Prize winning economist. When I'm done with him, he will be begging for a bailout. Please welcome Joseph Stiglitz.
Is able somehow to translate his feelings and his analysis into concepts which the average person can understand.
Which, of course, is exactly what Joe has always done. Think about what are the real problems of life and to think about it expansively.
And we've become the country among the advanced industrial countries with the least equality of opportunity. So different from our myth of the American dream.
I met Joe at the turn of the century when he was chief economist at the World Bank, and I invited him to come to Columbia Journalism School, and that night he stayed over and had dinner with the Bagehot Fellows, which is where he met his future wife.
I met Joe when I was a Knight Bagehot Fellow at Columbia. I went to Joe's lecture and then decided it would be a good idea to interview him for my Bagehot homework assignment. Then we had the Reuters Forum with someone from the IMF, and there was a dinner afterwards, and Joe stayed for it. And I actually started debating with the guy from the IMF, and I got capital controls and currency controls mixed up, and Joe dived in and rescued me. And we ended up talking about build-to-operate transfer projects in Vietnam till about midnight. And that was it. The rest is history.
If you could sum up Joe in one word, what word would you use?
Intelligent.
Generous.
Compassionate.
High energy.
Fun and playful. Deeply passionate.
Intellectually flexible.
Intellectually curious.
A Renaissance man.
Warmth, energy, and kindness.
A very wise leprechaun.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome, warmly welcome to the stage, Professor Joseph Stiglitz.
Thank you.
Joe, on behalf of Columbia Journalism School and Knight Bagehot, it is my pleasure to present to you this token, very small token of our appreciation for your incisive critique of global economic policy. Joe.
Well, thank you so much. Well, don't believe everything you see. I do want to thank Don Orsetta for putting that together. It was absolutely fantastic. I do want to echo one thing that was there. I've been not going to the Knight Bagehot's dinner as long as Rich has, but I think I got a higher return out of going. And I've always liked Rich. I've always enjoyed. It's intellectually really stimulating. Let me say why I've also been so involved, besides with Anya, about the Knight Bagehot. You know, as an academic, we develop complex ideas that need to be translated, understood by the broader public. As policymakers, we want our ideas to become part of a democratic debate. And it's not easy to do that. It's not easy to reach to large numbers of people. And the only way that in our democratic society that we do that is through the media, through journalists. And to me, that's why it's absolutely so important to have well-informed journalists, well-informed about complex ideas in economics and business. And that's the reason I have been such a strong supporter of the Knight Bagehot program, besides the fact that I got my wife there. Thank you very much for this honor.
Tonight is a special reason, or a special occasion for another reason. 11 years ago tonight, Joe and Anya got married. So happy anniversary, Joe and Anya, and enjoy this romantic evening. In a tradition we started 19 years ago, tonight we also honor the work produced by our alumni. Renamed 5 years ago in memory of Chris Wells, who directed this program for nearly a decade, the Christopher J. Wells Memorial Prize is awarded to a former Bagehot whose work best epitomizes Chris's ideals of thorough reporting, good storytelling, and timeliness. And this year we have 2 Wells Prize winners, and I'd like to bring up to the stage Steve Call, the Dean of the Journalism School, who will be making the presentation.
Thank you, Terry. I think this is one moment tonight where we can express our appreciation to you for the outstanding leadership you've provided to the program. So thank you. The Chris Wells Prize honors outstanding books and enterprise journalism by Knight Bagehot alumni, and we have 2 winners tonight, as Terry said. The first is Mark Clifford, Knight Bagehot class of 1987. For his book, The Greening of Asia, The Case for Solving Asia's Environmental Emergency. It describes the terrible ecological cost of Asia's explosive growth, and Mark is the former editor-in-chief of the South China Morning Post. His book provides a sophisticated critique of China's massive but flawed efforts to create renewable industries, and he uses specific corporate cases to provide a blueprint of what Asia can do to prevent its economic miracle from poisoning people, land, and water. So congratulations, Mark, on this very fine piece of work, which you will all receive on your way out tonight.
I have 1 minute, so I want to thank everybody involved with the Bagehot. Thanks, Terry. Pauline Tai is here. The Bagehot is what prompted me to go to Asia. After finishing it in 1987, I got a job in South Korea, and I've been living in Asia ever since. So Thanks to the Badgett. I have a couple people affiliated with the book I'd like to thank. Jill Baker, who is an adjunct fellow who lives in Brooklyn now, did a lot of work. And my agent, Leah Spiro, is out there who helped sell the book to Columbia. So thanks very much. Thanks to Steve Shepard, for my former editor at Business Week, who's also affiliated with many of these things. So thank you all.
We're also pleased to honor tonight Daniel Basis, a senior correspondent at Thomson Reuters, for his series on the Argentine debt crisis. He won exclusive access because of his 12-year coverage of the crisis, and he avoided the pitfalls and easy characterizations that led some news organizations to frame this story merely as a fight by greedy investors against a populist government. Daniel's coverage culminated in a series of stories about the litigation brought by holdout creditors that ended up effectively restructuring the sovereign debt market. Congratulations, Daniel. Please come on up.
Thank you, Dean Cole. Terry, tonight's dinner chairs, honored guests, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for supporting the Badgetts, and thank you to the judges for this award. I'm honored. And a hearty congratulations to my co-recipient, Mark Clifford. Sometimes you get onto a story that's a gift that keeps on giving, and that's been the case with Argentina's debt woes. And if last Sunday's election is any indication, there's more to give. Thank you to my editors for giving me the room to dig and spend time on the story's many angles. And thank you to the changing cast of colleagues over the years with whom I've collaborated. And especially thank you to my wife, Erica, for her unwavering support. To those of us who slog it out every day in the trenches, like my grandfather and my uncle before me as journalists, you never know what's coming around the bend. But we pounce and we write the first draft of history. As my kids have gotten older and recognize more that my job means a lot of missed or late dinners, the common and cutting refrain of two preteens in our house has become, "What, Dad, Argentina again?" Well, tonight, when I get home, I can tell Hannah and Charlie, yes, what else? But look how it paid off. And I suppose that's a lot more than what the holdouts have gotten. Thank you very much.
By the way, Joseph Stiglitz has endorsed Mark Clifford's book, The Greening of Asia. So each of you get a copy of the book when you leave tonight. It'll be on your way out. Okay, so in about half an hour, dinner's about to be served, and in half an hour we will be back with our featured entertainment, a fireside chat where Gillian Tett will interview the Randall Stephenson, the CEO of AT&T. I know this is a very curious crowd, and you probably have a lot of your own questions. So you may tweet your questions during dinner at #CJSKB40. And if Jillian selects your question, you will win a free 6-month subscription to FT.com. So be sure to enjoy your dinner, chat, eat, and tweet. #CJSKB40. And we'll be back in half an hour.